actually not in shul right now, or not like, oh, I haven't been in shul in like a few months, but I'm on vacation, but I'm still coming to you from where I am. It's pretty relaxing over here, and I think it's fitting that this class is kind of like a little bit more of a relaxed class in the sense that we're not going into like halachic nuances. We're going to be going to general themes, and so I wanted to share with you my screen, and we'll get going with the slideshow. I have there's a few different themes that we're going to go through, God willing. I think they're all really interesting and also interconnected. So, without further ado, let's move forward. So here is our our class. In today's class is major themes. So here's what we've been through so far. We've been through married life, daily life, major themes. Next week we're going to go through a Bissel of everything, and that's basically mix and match of different topics that we're going to decide on together, and that's kind of what I brought here. Sorry, oops. Let me just share again. Sorry. One moment. I'm just trying to share my screen. There we go. Okay. Apologies. All right. Okay. So this somehow I was trying to get rid of this cup here, but it's still here. Anyway, let's wait for the ambulance to pass. Okay. So the topics I want to talk about next week, here are a few of them. If you have any other ideas, please, I'm gently requesting to put them in the chat section. Here are some ideas that I thought about for next week. Deception and dishonesty. I'm not going to touch on that this week. There's a lot of that in the show. Sibling rivalry, women's head coverings, kidney donation, private prayer. We could do topic of abortion or Zionism, but I think we talked about that in shul a bunch. So whatever topics we want to talk about, we'll talk about next week. If you don't offer me some, I will find the ones that I want to do, but I kind of really want to do the ones that you want to do. So feel free to put them in. All right, here are our topics for today. Dreams, natural talents and inclinations, and forgiveness. Dreams are prevalent throughout the show, and it starts from Kiva in the very beginning, dreaming about his mother, and his mother appears throughout the show to his father, Shulam, and his first wife-to-be, Elisheva. She has visions of her two previous husbands. And so the question is, why does the show highlights dreams and takes them seriously? And what does Judaism have to say about dreams? So I have a bit to say on that. Then we'll talk about natural talents and inclinations. Basically in the hasidic community sometimes, and the haredim community a little bit more, natural talents like the talent Kiva has for painting sometimes are downplayed, and we'll talk about that and see why that is, and what are different opinions on that among different rabbis. And lastly is forgiveness. Forgiveness is a big theme in the show. If you can think of one case of the largest case of forgiveness in the show, just think about it for a moment. It is, and if you've got this answer, then you thought about what I thought about with Lipe and Gitti, where she ends up being able to forgive him, and also her daughter is able to forgive him for his misdeeds. So we're going to talk about forgiveness too. So let's watch this little clip here. This clip is connected to the theme of dreams, and this is the whole show starts out with this dream. Sorry. All right. Can you hear this?
מה נשמע אנשים? ברוך השם. מה בשבילך עקיבא, גדול או קטן? גדול שכוח. שים לי גם חמוצים. אין חמוצים. מה זאת אומרת? אין וגם לא היה אף פעם.
This is a dream.
טוב.
The first episode, the very beginning of the first episode of the show.
עושה פה?
התגעגעתי.
לאנשים?
אנשים? מה יש לי מאנשים? התגעגעתי לקצת גוגל. קר לי, יקירי. כל כך קר לי. ואין שום דבר מה לעשות. אפילו חמוצים אין כאן.
איפה אתה יודע איך נראים אסקימוסים? היית שם פעם?
אבל מה הפשט? מה זה בא לומר כל החלומות האלה?
לא בא לומר שום דבר. יבוא היורצייט וכל יהיה בסדר.
All right, so that is how the show opens up. Obviously, the main focus isn't about the pickles, but there's something, a lot of layers there. And this actually spurs, well, there's a lot of offshoots from this dream. He ends up opening up a gemach for heaters, if you remember that. And he ends up being able to connect with Elisheva through that. A lot of other things come through this because his mother was cold, so he opened up this gemach. He took this charity for heaters. And he ends up taking it seriously. And so throughout the show, dreams are taken seriously, and they're almost a harbinger for what's to come. They're able to tell, they're able to portray people's realities to them where they are on the inside, and also tell the future. And so, is this accurate with what Judaism has to say about dreams? What's the place of dreams in Judaism? So that's kind of what I want to talk about right now. So here are a few. Okay, so here are, if you go through Jewish sources, you will get many answers. And I have my own opinion on this, and I want to share that with you, but I just want to show you like a broad range of opinions on dreams in Jewish tradition. So I saw people putting in topics into the chat bar, so I appreciate that. If you can keep putting them in, and I'll read them all. So one opinion says dreams are true. So if you read the Bible, just read the Tanakh. Read the book of Breshit, right? Don't get complicated. Read the book of Breshit. Think about all the dreams that are there. Joseph has dreams. Pharaoh has a dream. Pharaoh's servants have a dream. Joseph solves their dream. Joseph's dreams come true. Dreams are pretty central. People take them very seriously. So the fact that dreams are true, that's very much true in the Tanakh. And it's also in later tradition. I have three sub bullet points here. There's one approach that says dreams are true, and they're a 60th of prophecy. And there's actually a ceremony, which if you have a bad dream, you can make your dreams better, amelioration of dreams ceremony. So that means they're taking dreams seriously. And also in Masechet Brachot, Tractate Brachos, there's all these, if you look up that source, Brachot 57a, you can figure out there's codes for figuring out what dreams mean. So if you're ever interested, if you have a dream about an ox or a donkey, or about a snake, or about wheat, if you want to know what that means, you can open up there, and they have explanations for what they mean. So obviously the Talmud even there takes it seriously. However, there are other opinions within later tradition in the Talmud, which says that one approach says that dreams follow the interpretation. So it's basically however you interpret it. And so if you go to somebody who can interpret it well, then it'll be a good dream. If you go to someone who's not interpret it in a bad way, it'll turn out to be bad. So it's all basic subjective, and perhaps how you interpret your own dream based on how they interpret it, and that's what will play out. That seems to say that they're not as objectively real, but more subjectively true. And then there's an opinion which says there's not a dream without nonsensical elements. And so we have the dream of Joseph, where Joseph dreams about everyone's going to be bowing down to him. I think I have a picture of that here. Yeah. In this picture here, if you look on the right, you see Joseph and his dreams. Joseph has a dream that all 11 stars and the moon and the sun are going to bow down to him. And this dream does come true. His brothers end up bowing down to him. His father, who is the son, ends up bowing down to him. However, at this time, his mother has passed away. And so she was represented by the moon in his dream. So the sages learn out from here, so the dream can be true, but it's not always completely true. And there are sides of it that could be untrue, like in the case of Joseph. And so that's that opinion. And then there's an opinion that say dreams reflect one's daily musings. And so the Talmud says that you never had a case where someone dreamed about an elephant able to fit in the size of a space of a needle. What does that mean? I think that was the statement there. It means that you don't think about it during the day. So you never dreamed about it at night. You only dream about things you think about during the day. So I don't know if you ever had a dream. Think back. A lot of people here probably had dreams. If you want to share about your dreams in the chat section, feel free to do so, or privately. But many of us, I'm sure, have had dreams out there, and you wonder, like, what is this dream about? Is this true? Is this not true? I dreamt about my parents. I dreamt I was falling off a cliff. I woke up. I was afraid. And so one explanation would say, sure, maybe that's telling you what's about to happen. Another explanation would say, listen, you maybe had a tough day at work today, and you were afraid that you're going to get fired by your boss, and then you went to sleep, and then you fell off. You had some sort of tragic dream that reflected what you were feeling during the day. It's just a reflection of your daily musings. It's not even real. So there's a wide range of opinions, and then there's just a dream opinion that says dreams are nonsense. So what do you do with all this? What do you do with all this?
Rebbe Yoga, I just wanted to comment. Somebody's asking if your speaker is on the loudest setting. If you can just double check that. I'm hearing you fine, but if you don't mind to put it on the loudest, we would appreciate that.
Okay, let me see. How is that? Is that better?
It's good. You know, as I told the group, there's only so much we can control about everybody's individual devices. So, you know, I'm hearing you fine, so I think you're good to go.
I actually do have a microphone, but it's not here. So next time I'll be inside. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I apologize. I hope people are able to hear. Can you just? I'm not looking at people. Could you see? You give a thumbs up if you can hear me okay, and
yes, we can hear you okay.
And other people too?
Yes. To me, it sounds like it's probably that person's device. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for that.
All right, no problem. So I'm just going to show you two sources which are often brought in this discussion. Here is a source, the most extreme source that says dreams are true. And this is from Bamidbar 12:6. When God says, when a prophet of the Lord arises among you, I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. So if you've had a dream that you're going to be a millionaire, then perhaps that's prophecy and it's going to come true. I hope so. And if it does, I called it, and God willing, maybe you can give a percentage to the shul or to me. All right, no, you don't have to do that. But that is one approach. Another approach is the complete opposite. And this is taken from Zechariah 10:2, where it says, dreams speak lies. And so this is often brought. Chalamot shavidaberu. Chalamot shavidaberu. This is often brought with saying dreams are not true. So these are two extremes. There's everything in between. So I want to say what I think about this, okay? And this is something that I came across almost like while I was walking in the hallway in yeshiva, in Merkaz Rav Yeshiva in 1999. I was talking to a friend there, and I think it was there. Yeah, 1999. And I was talking to a friend about dreams, and I was like, and in that stage, I was driving people crazy because I had so many questions because I was newly religious. Also, Shira and Khan, if you see somebody posting someone in the chat section I should know about, please feel free to interrupt and let me know if it's something critical. Otherwise, I'll stop and then we'll address it. So I was in yeshiva. I was like walking down the hallway, and I was chatting with somebody. At that time, I was asking a lot of questions about everything because I was newly religious. And of course, I was asking about dreams. So I want to know what that was about. And he brought me this amazing source that made a lot of sense to me. And that's this source. And this is just, I don't know if a lot of people know about this source, even in the religious world, but this is from Orchot Tzadikim in the 15th century. And I just highlighted the red part that I want you to know. He says, one who accustoms oneself that all of their thoughts are true, then even in the night they will seek visions of truth. I think that made a lot of sense to me. And he was and I think Rav Ovadia Yosef brought this somewhere. I think he was quoting him. He's a big rabbi. And basically, the more we're connected to truth, the more we're connected, we're staying out of nonsense in our daily lives. We're not thinking about all these nonsensical things and watching all these things that put all these images into our head, the clearer visions we're going to have. I think that can be helpful. Like the more, if one wants to really attain and achieve good, positive dreams, then it's worthwhile trying to be involved in as much, be a true person, be straight and narrow inside, and also be involved in truth, which is Torah and fear of God. The more you do that, the more you'll be clarified. I think your vision will be clarified. You'll be able to attain more truer dreams. And I think that's why it says when the prophet dreams, the dream is true, because the prophet is on that level. So I think that can be helpful. Like if you're in a good place, it's hard to judge like which dreams are true or not. But I think the more we're connected to truth, the more we can draw in messages of truth. And what I would like to say is, in general, dreams have a kernel of truth in them almost all the time. There's mixed in sometimes nonsense because we're involved in nonsense, but in no way do I think that we should downplay the power of dreams. Maybe because I'm just a mystic, but this show, Shtisel, highlights that dreams are important, and in general, all of our biblical texts highlight the power of dreams. So there's definitely truth to dreams. If I can tell you what your dream means, or if you're going to know, that's another story. But I definitely think that there's truth to dreams, and the more connected to truth, the more truer your dreams will be. Now, here's another statement on dreams I think is incredibly powerful. And this is from Rav Kook. And this is connected also to the show in the sense that they're kind of playing out these dreams in their lives. And this is what Rav Kook says. And this is a beautiful source. So I just got to close on the bottom. Okay. So Rav Kook says this is Shmona Kvatzim 3, and this is the last slide of this topic. So after this, I'll see if there's any questions people are asking. So Rav Kook says this amazing statement. The great dreams are the foundations of the world. So Rav Kook isn't necessarily talking about dreams when you go to sleep. And this is where I think everybody can agree upon. Dreams in Judaism are internal dreams, our aspirations, our desires, our hopes for big things in our lives and for the world. Those are the foundations of the world. A lot of things start from visions and dreams that people often downplay, or that the world often tries to dismiss or remove us from. And that's what he says here. The crudeness of conventional life, wholly immersed in its materialistic aspect, removes from the world the light of the dream, the splendor of its wide horizons, its ascent above ugly reality. Thus the world in its convulsion with pains engendered by the destructive toxins of reality, devoid of the brightness of the dream of the inhibitor, in revolt against, I actually can't read this because it's on the bottom of my screen, against is truly the most substantive truth of existence, okay? So dreaming uninhibitedly, that is the source of the foundation of our world. I think what he means by this is that all these things that we're enjoying, we're talking on the internet now. This was a dream once. We're connecting through Zoom. This was once a dream that became a reality. And so Rav Kook, even if you want to say that I'm going to go by those views in the Talmud that said my dreams, there's nonsense in them, but please don't downplay your own personal dreams. That's what Rav Kook's encouraging us to do, is to embrace our dreams, and not just that, see them as the foundation of the world, because from great dreams, amazing things can happen in our lives. So I think that's kind of two positive views on dreams. If there's truth in them, if you're in a true place, and that dreams are the foundation of the world. And I think that's kind of highlighted in the show, in the sense that the show takes a positive stance on dreams. I think Judaism does too. All right. So that's a little bit that. Any comments there I should know about, Shira? Okay. So we're going to continue to the next topic. If you will, it is no dream. I read that comment. Okay. So is that the translation to Im Tirtzu Ein Zo Agada? I guess that's the translation to that. Okay. So that's a little bit on dreams. Now I want to go into our next topic. Sorry. Here we go. Our next topic is a really powerful one also, and there's some good Rav Kook Torah on this. Okay, so this is a theme that's extremely central in the show, maybe more than dreams, but it's connected to this dream topic, natural talents and inclinations. Okay, now I want to share something a little bit personal before we do this. I'm going to stop sharing. I'll share something a little bit personal, okay? So I was in, okay, so I want to share something a little bit personal. So when I joined more of like a more right-wing, more religious, very religious yeshiva in Israel, I was going, my trajectory of my religious direction was going more and more hasidic and more black hat, and I was getting more and more religious by the day. And at a certain point, I know what brought me into religion in the beginning at age 18 was my love for Jewish thought and Jewish philosophy. And at a certain time, I was willing to let go of that because of what the mainstream Judaism that I was seeing was promoting. The mainstream was promoting a Judaism where you basically sit all day, and at least in the yeshiva world, and you study Talmud all day. And at a certain point, I wanted to just jump into that world and forget what I believe was my natural talent, is to be involved in Jewish thought and philosophy. And I was going down that path very strongly until somebody stopped me from doing that. And I think that somebody is on the screen here. Let me see if I can find them. Maybe they're not. Well, it was my father. I don't know if he's here. Oh, there they are. Let's see if you guys are here.
I'm here.
That's Paula. And my father's
I'm here.
too. Oh, you're on a separate, you guys are on a separate.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, here's my father. So, all right. So what happened was I was about to go. I signed up for my master's program at Bar-Ilan University to study Jewish philosophy. And at that time I was getting more and more black hat. And I decided that I was going to go to this black hat yeshiva and forget about that talent. And then that summer I came to America, and my father convinced me to go to Bar-Ilan University instead. And then I ended up going through a master's and PhD program and really focusing on what my skill and my passion was Jewish philosophy. So I just want to thank my father for pushing me down that direction. And that's kind of like what happens in the show here. Kiva Shtisel does not have as much luck with his father. Not at all. I'm just gonna, if you can mute everybody, Shira, that'd be helpful, aside from me. So Kiva Shtisel does not have as much luck. And take a look at this scene. Now, Kiva Shtisel, he wasn't a philosopher, but he was an amazing painter, probably a better painter than I am a philosopher. But and he had this skill, and he did not get support from his father. And this scene really highlights this. This scene is an amazing scene because it has so many layers. In this scene, Kiva he just came from being at a matchmaker. The matchmaker told him he was defective because he wasn't the standard cookie cutter religious type that's sometimes expected in that hasidic community. And he wasn't able to study and learn Talmud all day, but he has this amazing skill, but that wasn't recognized. Right after he got called defective by the matchmaker, he gets a letter, or maybe even a call at the same time, what I recall, telling him that he won a prize for being an outstanding artist, a very rare prize, and he received a stipend for that. You're going to receive a stipend for that, and that actually is going to help his career take off. And this kind of contrast between what he was being told by his community, what he's been told by the secular community, are two opposite things. And his father falls on the side of his community and is not encouraging him to develop that trait, at least in this scene. So let's take a look at this. So he's telling his father here about the whole story.
הייתי היום אצל מנוחה קניגסברג. לא יודע. קודם כל היא מתעקשת שאני דפקט.
אבל כנראה יודעת מה שהיא מדברת.
תודה בני.
Sorry.
שומע אבא? הייתי היום אצל מנוחה קניגסברג. לא יודע. קודם כל היא מתעקשת שאני דפקט.
אבל כנראה יודעת מה שהיא מדברת.
תודה בני.
אבל מה, יש לה הצעות?
התחילו לתת לי כל מיני אופציות. דפקט כזאתי.
This is fun.
ככה היא קוראת להם. דפקטים.
נו בסדר, מה יש את הזכות?
טוב, לא חשוב. בסוף עזבתי את הפגישה איתה באמצע כי קיבלתי טלפון מקאופמן. אתה שומע אבא?
שומע, דפקטה, נו.
איך שאני יושב אצל מנוחה קניגסברג, והיא מסתכלת לי כמה שאני דפקטה.
Rabbi, there's static.
שאני מקבל פרס.
Can't hear it?
It's going in and out. There's static a little bit.
Can you read the screen?
Yeah.
All right, you have to read
פרס
it.
וסרמן. קאופמן זה הבעלים של הגלריה. הוא הגיש אותי בכלל בלי שידעתי. זה
Should I turn off the volume?
פרס הצייר המבטיח או משהו כזה.
הצייר המבטיח. לא, נו.
כן, כן. היה בסייעתא דשמיא ובחרו בי. אם זה מעניין אותך, אני אשמח שתבוא.
All right. What's interesting about this scene is that he's about to show his father this letter that he received that says that he won this award. What's going to turn out, those who have seen the show, what ends up happening is the father ends up coming, doesn't recognize his son's talent. The opposite. He goes to the award ceremony for his own purposes to plea from them for tzedakah, from the people who are giving Akiva, his son, this award. And so you see a lack of recognition of his unique talent. Now, I want to contrast that with another video, another clip from the show, where his wife-to-be, Libby, says the exact opposite to him.
Right, stop, Rabbi Yoga, for a second. Are you when you sharing your screen, are you maximizing the screen to be able to see it in full screen?
I can try. Why, is it hard to see?
You only see it in small instead of in large.
Okay, I'll try to make it bigger. Let's see.
You have to
It's embedded. That's the problem.
okay, fine, that's fine.
It's embedded on the.
No worries.
All right. All right. So this is Libby. Libby is his bride eventually to be. At this point, he doesn't know that, and those who haven't seen it don't know that either. But now you do. But she discovers in his room. She's his cousin. She discovers in his room paintings.
זה הבית של הזיידה. כמה שנים לא הייתי שם?
כן, איפה מצאת את זה פתאום?
לפעמים משהו מאחורי המיטה. עזבתי אותה וגיליתי שיש לי בן דוד צייר.
So just pay attention now to this dialogue where he says he's dismissing his talent, perhaps based on the messaging that he's getting from around him. And she is the one, as opposed to his first Elisheva from the first season, who dismissed his talent, she's recognizing his talent. Listen to her language here.
הייתה איזו תקופה שציירתי קצת.
פעם ציור ממש יפה.
אני יכולה לקחת מה שאת רוצה. נשמח.
אם הייתי מקבלת מהקודש ברוך הוא כזאת מתנה, כזה כישרון, הייתי מתאמצת מאוד לא לבזבז את זה.
Okay, so that's, one second, let's let this truck pass. So those are the two approaches, right? Ready? Like to not recognize the skill or to see it as a gift from God. What is the Jewish approach to this? What do our Jewish texts say about this? So there really are, they're in the hasidic community and also more like the yeshiva community, oftentimes these skills are downplayed, and I'm going to give you the reason for why sometimes that's the case. And that's these following sources. Okay, so there is a concept of the evil inclination. Okay, and this source talks about, I'm just reading the red, God created two inclinations, one a good inclination and one an evil inclination. Every individual has a good inclination and an evil inclination. So we know we want to encourage people to live based on their positive inclination, do the right thing based on their positive drives on their insides. They learn this out from the verse that says, Vayitzer Hashem. Up here on the top of the screen, it says Vayitzer with two yuds. God created the individual with two yuds. That means there's two yetzers, two inclinations, a good one and a bad one. Now, how can you be so sure? How can you be sure you're living based on the good inclination? So that hasidic community that's depicted here, I'm not saying all hasidim think this way or that all haredim or the yeshiva world think this way, but there's a tendency sometimes to think that we want to be as safe as possible, to know that your life is being directed by your positive inclination, your good inclination. How can we be sure about that? We want you to fall in line with the mainstream approach, was to learn Torah as much as you can all day, be involved in spiritual pursuits. When you step away from that and you're attempting to entertain some of your inner talents, like painting, or like Kiva's brother, who is into singing, and he got discouraged by Shulam, his father, from doing so at a young age. And there's a scene where he cries about that. Then he goes, try to entertain that, try out that talent, which didn't end up panning out for him. But when you go and you step away from this straight and narrow approach, you're in dangerous territory. You might be listening to your evil inclination that's trying to remove you from the Torah. So that's the danger of sometimes embracing these inner talents. And that's sometimes why this is discouraged. And that's kind of perhaps what the messaging I was receiving in certain yeshivas in my earlier days was like, what do you want to do? Study Jewish thought, Jewish philosophy, all these things. Study Gemara, study halacha, and you'll be fine. You'll be doing God's will. And I actually had people tell me, like, why are you getting involved with that nonsense? But I didn't end up listening to them. And I still study Talmud and everything else, but I'm also involved in something I'm passionate about. And so that's like the opposite approach, which can be found again in Rav Kook. So I'm just going to read you just a little bit of this piece, which at that time period in my life, when I came across this source was instrumental in flipping me towards my life, my direction in life, which is to kind of embrace those inner passions that I had. So Rav Kook says this, and I'm not going to read the whole source, but this is a beautiful source where he says that there are those who have strayed off the correct path due to the fact that in their learning and spiritual growth, they have betrayed their unique individual trait. So I'll just explain to you what happens in the source. Rav Kook says that everybody has unique traits, and not everybody's set to do the same thing that every yeshiva student is supposed to do. He's talking about yeshiva learning, but you can extend this to other talents and traits in life. Somebody who has this great talent to be a painter, at least according to texts that I've read in Rav Kook, which are many, they can recognize this, or should recognize this, like Libby said, as a talent from God and try to embrace that talent. If they don't, and they try to fit into the mold, they might actually leave Judaism altogether. And that's what Rav Kook's saying here. Those who have strayed off the correct path due to the fact that in their learning and spiritual growth, they betrayed the unique individual trait. Rav Kook here talks about somebody who's more inclined at that time, I felt this text was speaking to me, to being involved in Jewish thought or Jewish agadita, which is Jewish lore. And he says, if you find, and he says in like the fourth paragraph, if you look down the fourth paragraph, if they would only find and fulfill the unique task to be involved with the side of Torah that aligns with their intrinsic trait, in this case, agadita, which is Jewish lore, then they would remain faithful in the highest manner to the holiness of Torah. So he says, not only do you have to recognize your individual trait, your unique skills, your blessings, your gifts, and your talents, but you have to embrace them and fulfill them in your life. If you don't, you won't be able to live Torah to the highest manner. And so this is a really different approach. This is a little bit less fearful approach of the evil inclination and more of a positive approach towards one's inner talents and skills. And this is basically, these are the two sides, just like is Shulam's side and his community side, and Libby's side, and Kaufman, who's his mentor basically in art, who is promoting and encouraging him to embrace his talent. And Kiva is basically back and forth from these two approaches throughout the whole show. And for me, I found a lot of strength in Rav Kook's approach, which is try to see who you are, what your unique talents are, embrace them, and see them as a gift from Hashem. And if you can bring out your gift, ideally in a Jewish in a holy way, that's the optimal level. So that's a little bit on unique trait and embracing your unique trait, and why some individuals and some of these communities are fearful of that. And I don't want to downplay that. Rav Kook, I wrote a paper on this in my bachelor's degree where I talk about Rav Kook also. He has statements where he says you have to overcome your evil inclination and just deny it at times. But he is a little bit more positive in relation to the unique talents and gifts that the individual has. And he actually hung out with artists, with poets in his time, and he recognized their talents and gifts too. And he writes about them in his writings. All right, so that's a little bit that's like the end of the second piece. And we have one more piece here. But are there any comments that should be paying attention to, Shira, at this point?
And Ilana Wiesel asked, can you say more about what the dreams are in Shtisel mean? That was right after you were talking about a lot of dreams. It was from a while ago. So I think everyone really enjoyed that. So she was asking about
like the individual
more about
dreams.
them.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I know there's a lot of dreams, but I'll get back to you on that for next week because I want to analyze that properly. And that takes like time to go through the different dreams. I actually Googled dreams in Shtisel and there's like nothing on that. So I'm actually gonna have to go through the different episodes and pick through them, but I'll do that for next week. Okay. So stay tuned and come back. All right. So here's this last topic. And this is a very powerful, you're welcome. I saw that. chat.
Oh,
Okay. So here I want to share with you this last part, and this is also a central theme in the show, which is forgiveness. And this is, I mean, the show starts out with this already in the first episode, I believe, where Lipe leaves Gitti's husband, and he ends up, for those who haven't seen it, now you're going to know this, but you'll pick this up already in the first episode or so. Lipe, I think, is Gitti's husband. He ends up betraying her and leaving Judaism for a span of time while he was away outside of Eretz Israel, and she has trouble. She goes through so many stages in her life through the show in relation to forgiving him. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking how she goes through basically different stages of the grieving process. Think about it. Those who have seen the show, first she goes through a stage of denial, and she got emboldened, this denial, through involvement with this rabbi who told her it never happened. Believe it, just you don't know if it happened for sure or not. So it didn't happen, and she denies it. And he's like, "We have to talk about this, Gitti. We have to talk." She's like, "No, nothing happened. We have nothing to talk about." Later on, she experienced anger and frustration, and at a certain point, sadness. And we're going to see the scene where she was sadness, and then she's able to come to a certain level of acceptance and forgiveness. It's a whole process. And so what I want to also show in this last part is kind of show how that is connected to the Joseph story. You open with the Joseph story. We're going to close with the Joseph story. With Joseph, I want to say Jewish name, Yosef, went through a process also of going through anger, going through pain, and also being able to forgive his brothers and put it all in a certain perspective, a godly perspective. So I want to show you this scene from the show where Gitti is able to finally forgive. It's already near the end of the second season. So those who haven't gotten there, sorry, I'm giving this away, but she's towards this end of the second season. I think it's like one of the last episodes. She's able to finally forgive him, and this is the scene when she's able to do so. It's a long process, and he proves himself worthy of forgiveness because he does a lot to finally find favor in her eyes. So here is her crying, basically weeping and going through the pain that goes with some of this.
too much static. Okay, it stopped.
When I talk, I think there's static.
Okay.
Is it static now?
No, right when you started it bothered. It was,
so,
but it's okay now.
So what I wanted to say is that she just went through a process of crying and like kind of really processing, and now she's able to finally forgive.
Hello.
ליפה.
מה קרה? איפה את?
אני צריכה אותך, ליפה. אני צריכה אותך. סלחת לך.
מה?
סלחת לך. אני אוהבת אותך.
Oh, okay. All right, get your tissues out. No, sure. So it's a powerful moment there in the show, and she went through like a process, as I said. Now I want to connect this to what Torah has to say about forgiveness. And by the way, she was able to get to that level of forgiveness through her daughter, was able to forgive her father, and her daughter also was kind of encouraging her husband to forgive his father, and that's how this whole thing kind of came into play. There's also a lot of forgiveness from Kive towards his father, maybe too much throughout the show. I don't know. Anybody any comments on that? Please add that in the comment section. So, all right, let's go to this next slide. Here are the talking points I want to discuss when it comes to this. All right. So, Judaism versus Christianity in terms, and I'm going to do this very quickly because I want to stick to our time frame here, but we have like a few minutes left. Judaism versus Christianity, forgiveness in the Torah, limits of forgiveness, limits of asking forgiveness. So Judaism puts less stresses, and the first two are connected. If you go through the Torah, try to think of a case in the 5 books of Moses. And this is I've asked a lot of people this before, where somebody actually says, I'm so sorry for harming you. And somebody says, I forgive you. You don't really find that in the Torah. There's cases of forgiveness, but actually that whole process, it's hard to find that in the Torah, and the Tanakh, it's not as prevalent either. It's very different in Christianity. Christianity has a statement, at least in the New Testament, where it says, if someone harms you, you should turn the other cheek and let them continue, and they continue to hit that cheek as well. I'm not saying that mainstream Christianity today adopts that and everything, but it does appear in their texts. And Christianity, even though on the ground they weren't so forgiving to Jewish people, to put it lightly, throughout our history, but at least in their text, there's a lot of discussion of forgiveness and achieving forgiveness and salvation, etc. So Judaism talks about forgiveness, but there are limits to forgiveness. And so it should be limit to forgiveness. Limits of forgiveness or to forgiveness. We have to forgive somebody, but the sages also say, don't be a sucker. Don't be a sucker. It says you shouldn't, somebody who is kind to the people who are evildoers, in the end, they'll be evil to the good doers. All right. So if you show mercy upon people who are evil, in the end, you won't have energy and they're overcome. You won't have energy to be good to the people who really deserve your kindness. So you have to pick and choose. And I think that's what Gitti was doing throughout the show. She was processing for herself, but she still wasn't able to forgive Lipe until he went through a certain process himself of showing her, proving to her that he's going to be there for her and he's not going to leave. So Judaism says, don't be a sucker, but you should forgive. And it's ideal to forgive because that helps you process and let go of toxins and negative energy. In addition, asking for forgiveness. Let's say you come to somebody and say, I'm sorry. They don't forgive you. So that's not enough. You have to come 2 more times and say you're sorry. If they still don't forgive you, there's a limit. You have to go forever. If that's on them already at that point. And I remember when I was in yeshiva, some people used to come up to me or to other people like, I'm sorry. And if you don't forgive them, like, I'm done. So that's not what we're talking about here. It's talking about real, sincere forgiveness, but there's a limit to that too. So that's important. Judaism has this balance between forgiving and asking for forgiveness. On the other hand, we don't want to be suckers. We believe in self-defense. We believe in fighting. Our name is Yisrael because we fight against evil. Judaism is big on fighting against evil. But on the other hand, we try to let go and forgive also. So there's like a mix between those two values. And you find this throughout Jewish texts. We talk about shalom is a value and emet and justice is a value. And we try to balance between the two. I just want to show you just a few texts here that are important. Just the Yosef texts. I'm going to show you 3 stages. Now, I believe Yosef, he would put his brothers through that whole ordeal for reasons that are very lofty, I believe. He was trying to fulfill the dreams like Ramban said that he had when he was earlier in his life, or for other reasons, helping them do tshuva. But, and not many people highlight this, I also think the Torah is highlighting the fact that he went through a process of forgiveness. I want to show you a few stages. Here's one stage. Joseph weeps when he sees his brothers, and that's here. Joseph remembered the dreams, and he acted harshly with his brothers when he first saw them. Perhaps this is relaying. I'm not saying that he was like anger that we have, but perhaps he was going through a certain feeling of pain and anger. The Torah is at least highlighting it. I'm not saying he did this from anger, but it's highlighting that he might have been in a certain place of pain and anger at his brothers. He might have felt that feeling. I think the Barbanel talks about that. Later on, when he sees his brothers finally come down and they do tshuva among themselves, they don't do tshuva with him because they don't know he's there. And the highlighted red part says, they did not know Joseph understood, and he turned away from them after he heard them doing tshuva, and he cried. Why was he crying? It could be he was crying because he was going through the pain and processing what they did to him as a kid. That he was, and it could be that he was, according to one way to read this, because for many years he was trying to escape his past, or just kind of put it behind him. Now he's confronted with it again. He's going through all this stuff, the pain, the anger, the crying. And then finally, he's able to unite with them and accept. So he's going through these kind of similar stages that we saw with Gitti and the overall grieving process and the stages of being able to forgive. He's able to come together with them at the end. He says, don't be sad, he says. at the end, and he says, because God arranged for this whole thing. He's able to put it in a healthy perspective, able to forgive them and see that God helped this whole the reality play out. And so that's kind of like what I like to conclude with, is that we see that I think all these three topics are connected. The idea of dreams. We have dreams that we have when we're sleeping. We have dreams we have when we're awake. These dreams could be desires, drives that we have. Rav Kook would say you should trust them if you can. And the ones that are real and they're not going away and they're pushing you to grow and develop and do good things in this world, embrace that. The same thing goes for the second part of our lecture, which is one's internal talents. If you have certain talents, Rav Kook, again, would encourage you to listen to yourself. Listen to what your passions are, your talents are. Try to embrace them and bring them out. And you can bring big blessing, as Libby said, to the world. As Libby, the great Talmudic sage. Lastly is acceptance of yourself, acceptance of other people. On the other hand, Judaism is balanced in the sense that we want to accept ourselves, embrace other people, but we're not suckers. We fight when we need to fight, and also with ourselves. We fight against our evil inclination we need to fight. Not everything's a unique talent. I have this unique talent to drink coffee all day. That's not a unique talent. That could just be the evil inclination. Or I have this unique talent to eat amazing food. That could be, you could become a food connoisseur, or you could become just gluttonous person. So there's a balance but nevertheless, I like this positive approach. I think the show has at least presents a positive approach when it comes to those, Akiva and his talent, and this idea of dreams and this idea of forgiveness, and trying to embrace the positive side of ourselves and of other people's humanity. Sharkov.